Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's Greg from Wint Audio Video coming to you with another great video showcasing vintage audio equipment. All right, thanks for joining me today. On the workbench we have a Nakamichi CR-3A cassette deck. These were produced in Taiwan from 1988 through 1990, and it's one of their probably mid-level decks. There was I think a CR1 and I think up to CR7, and then you've got the higher end decks like the Dragon, of course. But in this video we're going to talk about its features. We'll explain what all these buttons and dials do on the front. We'll talk about the hookups on the back and what it takes to hook one of these up. And then, of course, we're going to do a demonstration so you can see how it performs. So this one came into the shop with a problem of won't play, checkout, hadn't been used in a long time. It had been sitting in a box. So I opened it up and quickly determined that the capstan belt was shot. I will show you the old parts here. Got my little bag. So in particular, here's the capstan belt. You can see it's got no very gooey, no strength left. And then I also replaced, while I was in there, there's a back tension belt that goes on the supply reel, this little guy, and the pinch rollers. Two pinch rollers in this unit. There's the main one, and here's the supply roller. And once we got that fixed, we had no sound on playback. So quickly just checked all the obvious stuff, and I noticed on the circuit board there was a kind of a blob of factory glue near a couple components, and you can see it had kind of dried up and turned to that dark brittle color that is usually something you need to remove because that can get conductive once it gets to that state. So sure enough, underneath that glue were a couple diodes. I don't think, there you go. And one of them was dead shorted. So went ahead and replaced those and got ourselves back in business. Starting with the front here, as you can see, it's a pretty clean, simple design. Over here on the left, we've got a power switch. You push that, it powers up. There's a headphone jack here. There's eject here. This is how you load your tapes. Over here, we've got a counter reset. That'll reset the counter back to 0. You've got rewind, stop, play, fast forward, pause, and record, your standard transport buttons. Next to reset up here, we've got a memory stop, off, and an auto repeat. So if you have it on memory stop, and we'll demonstrate this in a moment, let's say you're rewinding a tape. It'll rewind, it'll get to 0, and it'll stop right there. So that's helpful if you're starting a recording. You hit reset, put it on memory stop, and then when you're done recording, you can rewind. It'll stop right at where you began your recording. Over here, we've got timer, off, play, and record. So what that means is if there's a tape loaded and it's in, let's say, play, we can demonstrate this in a moment as well. When you turn the power on, it'll automatically just start playing, or subsequently, if you're in the record section and you turn the power on, it'll just start recording automatically. Over here, we've got our monitor switch. Either out is tape and depressed is the source. So that shows us the level of the source recording. And then we've got record mute. So that's often if you're starting out a recording, you can hit record mute and it will mute the first few seconds of that recording. And then moving over here, we've got our record level out here on the outside, and this is a balance to balance your input in case your input source is a little bit off. Down here, if you can read that, it says output. That's our output level for both the RCA jacks on the back and the headphone jack. Moving over here, we've got MPX filters off and on, Dolby noise reduction on, and then we've got a button for Dolby B and C. So B is out, C is in. You can see it changes up here as well, and it tells you that it's on. If you turn that off, the light goes away. We'll leave that off for now. Over here, we've got our bias. This is our tape selector. So based on the type of tape you're using for playback or recording, you would select these switches, either type 1 or EX, type 2 or SX, type 4 or ZX. That's your metal tapes. And then we've got our equalization, 120 or 70 microseconds. So for the higher end tapes, you're going to want that on 70. On the basic normal tapes, you'll put that on 120. And then this bias tune is for adjusting your bias based on the source and the type of tape. And there's a fine-tune adjustment that you can really dial in your tapes when you're doing recordings. All right, so that's the front. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the back real quick. I'll show you the hookups on the back. They're pretty straightforward, but I'll explain them to you. Okay, here's a look at the back of the Nakamichi CR-3A Discrete head cassette deck. As you can see, shows you the specs here. This is the US version, which is the A. There's a CR-3E, which is the European version. And we've got Nakamichi Corporation here, serial number. This is our power cord, standard American power cord. Right here is a system remote. There's an optional wired remote you can plug in here. Over here are our inputs and our outputs. We've got an input. This would go to your tape record on your receiver, or it might say out, tape out. So out of the receiver to the input here allows us to then record on this deck. And then output from here would go to our receiver where it says play or in. So really simple, just get a good set of RCA cables and hook it up that way. All right, well that's the back. Let's go ahead and flip it back around and we'll do a little demo here. So let's go ahead and demonstrate it. If I hit eject, I can grab a tape. This is a factory tape. We'll probably get in trouble playing it, so I'll try to just play it for a second or two. So let's say I want to rewind. I can just hit rewind, stop, play. I can turn the volume down right there so we don't get in trouble by YouTube. Stop, I can fast forward right there. You see how it stopped at 0 because I had the memory on. I can turn that off and then we can go ahead and fast forward, or I can rewind all the way back through and you'll see it'll pass through 0 this time because we're in the off on that memory stop. Let's go ahead and check out a recording. So what's really great about these decks, Nakamichi's in general, this is a 3-head design. So it's got a separate record head and a separate playback head and a separate erase head. They've got a bunch of adjustments, both internally and externally here, for adjusting the tape azimuth, the tape height, which is really the tilt of the heads, and the record level and the record bias adjustments are on inside for each type of tape, left and right channel. So there's a ton of adjustments to really dial these in for optimum recording performance, which is why Nakamichis are so well known for making recordings off of. So if I hit eject, I'm going to grab a type 2 tape here. Let's put our door back on. Oh, well, I'll show you this. So here's your your record height or tilt and azimuth, and this is our play height and or tilt and our play azimuth adjustments there. This door just clicks back on. So at this point I can go ahead and put it in record mode. Turn our volume up. And I'm going to set it for type 2 tape. I'm going to set it for 70 microseconds on the EQ. And then I'm going to adjust my record level. You can see it changes the VU here. I don't like to go all the way to the top, but somewhere around 75% or so. And what's nice is we can monitor our source. I'll turn that down in a second. We can monitor our source to make sure it's going to match the level. So you see that there's barely a difference between the source and the tape. Mainly just a little thump when I press the buttons, but listen to this. So that's after you calibrate it for those different tape selectors on the inside. You'll get that nice even recording. Then of course, when we go to rewind and play back what we just recorded, that's the end of our recording. So pretty sweet. As you can tell, it's got a nice recording capability. Nakamichis are just awesome decks. If you ever get a chance to own one, I highly suggest it if you're into audio cassettes. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you like this video. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. Give it a thumbs up. Love the thumbs up. If you guys would help promote these videos, share them with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope everyone is doing well out there. We'll see you in the next video. Bye now.